And I think a lot of men really struggle to admit to themselves when they need help or when they need somebody else to step into their lives or provide guidance. It's hard for us to admit weakness and admit areas in our life that we need help and reach out to other people. So, ironically enough, I was recently talking to a good buddy of mine. We were having a conversation, I guess, which was sparked by him sending me a video, which basically talks about how so many men are dealing with loneliness. I think it was something that I really took for granted until this conversation was brought up to me and we started talking about it. And I realized looking back at previous areas of my life that it was very accurate. It's very true that there were periods in my life where I felt very lonely, and even if I did maybe from the outside looking in have a lot of friends or a wide social circle, I still just felt lonely in a sense, and as if there weren't people I could go to talk to things. As we got to talking about this, I decided to dive a little bit deeper and look into some of the statistics and some of the validity to how lonely guys really are in our world today. And some of these stats were pretty staggering. So let me read them. I got them listed on a sticky note behind the camera here. Okay, so it says 1 in 3 men experience severe loneliness, and that is taking into account that 1 in 3 men are actually admitting to it. It might be more than that if we're being honest and realistic here. Suicide is 4 times higher for males than it is for females. And actually 80% of suicides are by men. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty staggering if you really think about it. Another interesting one is that people that say they have satisfying relationships in their lives have been shown to have longer life longevity by up to 22%. 22%. That's pretty crazy, and it makes sense when you think about it, because I know how strong the mind can be, and when we feel lonely or depressed, it can lead to very real physical problems as well. It can lead to obesity. It can lead to high blood pressure. It can lead to other sorts of diseases that manifest itself through the physical. And I think when we're going through these periods of loneliness and experiencing anxiety and depression, that's a very realistic consequence that comes with it. And I think that's why it's so important that relationships and the people we surround ourselves with is such an important topic and such an important ingredient to really living a successful life. And we've all heard the term that the people you surround yourself with is going to dictate where you go in life. That show me your 5 best friends or your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your future. And I think that is very true, that the people we surround ourselves with and the types of the level of quality in our relationships is really going to impact not only our success and how far we go in our career or in relationships, but just how happy and fulfilled we are in life as well. And I believe that the happier we are, the better we are at performing, the better we are at doing our job, the better we are at maintaining relationships and having a social circle, and really just increasing and improving all other areas of our lives as well. So I guess I wanted to make this video just to really dive into some of the reasons I think that men are experiencing so much loneliness, and some of the ways that I've been able to overcome loneliness in the past. I feel like I've gotten myself to a point to where I have a lot of really healthy relationships. I have a lot of different types of friends, different friends that almost serve different purposes in my life. And I think that is super important, and it's been a big reason for me as far as making strides in my career or just making progress in my life and improving my quality of life as a whole. So the first thing I want to dive into is why are men so lonely? We live in this world that's so connected through social media and technology. It makes it easier than ever to communicate and contact people, yet men are feeling lonelier than ever, it seems. And I also want to make a side note that there is a difference between loneliness and alone. Loneliness is an emotional state. Loneliness is a feeling. You feel loneliness. Alone is a physical state. Being alone is where you're physically not around other people. Loneliness is where you're feeling emotionally disconnected from other people. It's like other people aren't relating to you, or you feel like you can't connect to other people. I'm sure you've all heard the question, have you ever felt lonely in a crowded room? You can be surrounded by people physically or have a lot of people in your life, but you can still feel very lonely. And that's kind of the root problem I really want to get at in this video. So I think one thing that we really need to understand is that men and women, they relate differently. They have different forms of bonding with each other and forming relationships. And women typically bond and relate to other women through conversation, through talking. And that's why I think it's easier for a lot of women to, have these relationships and have healthy relationships because, we live in that interconnected world. It's really easy to pick up a phone and talk to someone on the phone for an hour and feel fulfilled and feel as though, you're maintaining a healthy relationship. Whereas guys, on the other hand, they don't get that feeling of fulfillment just by talking on the phone, just by having conversation one-on-one. And I know this is true with myself, to some degree. I enjoy conversation. I think conversation is good, but I also understand that men bond through doing things together, that activities with other men are how men are able to bond. I was actually just talking to one of my good gal friends this past weekend, and we were talking about, or she was telling me how her and her other gal friend that she's like really close with, they tell each other like everything in their lives. And I was just thinking in the back of my head, like I don't do that with a lot of my best guy friends. It's not uncommon for me to hang out with a good guy friend of mine and we don't even like bring up our jobs almost, or we don't even bring up relationships. And it's not that those areas aren't important. It's just that I think as men, we get a different sense of like fulfillment and connection through activity more so than spoken word and conversation. And I think another reason that so many men struggle with loneliness is because growing up, in high school, college, we rely on social structures to basically provide social settings for us, to provide opportunities for us to bond with other men. Growing up in high school or college, a lot of men are involved in sports or clubs and organizations or fraternities, things like that provide the structure for them to take time out of their day, to take time out of their schedule and connect with other men and be in a similar position in life and challenge each other and stay competitive and do different activities together. And then once we get to a point, after college or after school where we're, working full time and we're on our own in a sense, we don't have that structure already built into our schedule, and the responsibility is more on us to go out of our way and prioritize maintaining relationships, which is what I think a lot of men struggle to do. I might be making a generalization here, but I feel like a lot of like married couples, it's almost as if like the wife is kind of the one making a lot of the social plans and keeping the social circle connected, and the guy is more or less just along for the ride. And this kind of leads to the third reason why I think so many men are struggling with this, is because as men, we have this perception or idea in our head that we always have to be strong. We always have to present ourselves in this strong fashion. And I think a lot of men really struggle to admit to themselves when they need help or when they need somebody else to step into their lives or provide guidance. It's hard for us to admit weakness and admit areas in our life that we need help and reach out to other people. And this is something I've been really trying to be better at in my life is being more vulnerable, reaching out to people if I want to talk to someone or hang out with someone, going out of my way to ask for help if I need help, and understanding that that's what makes us human, is that there are going to be areas in our life that we need help. We can't always have it all together and always be on top of our shit. There's going to be times where we do need help, that we are coming up short in areas, and that's not to say that you're weak or you're inferior because of that. It's, if anything, I think it's having the ability to recognize that and having the self-awareness to recognize that you need help is a superpower in and of itself. So I guess the question comes down to then, how is this solved? And I'm not going to sit here and act like I have all the answers, but I do know that there's been there's been periods of time in my life where I felt very lonely, and I feel like present day I've gotten myself to a point to where I don't deal with that nearly as much, that I've been able to cultivate healthy relationships and a diverse group of relationships, to where I don't have to really feel like that as much anymore. And so I want to provide some of the ways I was able to do that, and hopefully it can help other men who are feeling lonely or feeling as if they don't have those healthy relationships built up in their lives. So going back to the original point I made about how men bond through doing things together, and I think this is just a good trait, a good way to live your life. But it's to have a diverse group of hobbies or activities that you like doing. I really think that this just changes your perspective and allows you to become more well-versed and well-rounded as an individual, and it really just makes you more interesting too, when it comes to like dating or things like that, being interesting, having different hobbies and activities that you like doing. For me, it's, I got really big into fitness, so I have a group of friends that I like to do fitness activities with, or friends that I'll go to the gym with, once a month. Or I have friends that once a year we all run a half marathon together. Other than that one time a year, it's hard for us to get all 4 or 5 of us together and actually commit to something like that. So fitness was a big one for me, doing like outdoor activities, hunting, fishing, things like that. Different types of hobbies that allow you to bond over a similar interest, as opposed to, just bonding over drinks or, gossiping about what's new in your life. Because one thing I've realized growing up is that while I was really close to some guys in high school or college, but present day, we start to kind of go our own paths and we start to become our own individuals. And it gets harder and harder to have areas that you can relate to each other, just because that's the nature of growing up. We grow in different directions, and there's no problem with that. But if you can have some sort of like shared interest or shared hobby that you guys make it a priority to hang out and do once a month or once every couple months, just to stay in contact and stay up to date with each other, it makes it a lot easier to maintain those relationships, even if you are growing apart or growing in different directions and becoming different in certain areas that you used to bond in. And this brings me to the next point, which is to segment your social circles. And I've gotten myself to a point to where I have really created healthy groups of different friends that I can hang out with at different times. So I have my group of friends that I go out to the bars with and drink and do the whole social bar scene. I also have a group of friends, like I was saying, where we're very fitness oriented, and if I'm not feeling like going out to the bars and drinking one weekend, I can reach out to them and make a plan to go to the gym on a Saturday morning, or work out, or go for a run, doing something like that. I have another group of friends that, like I was saying, is into like outdoor activities, hiking, hunting, fishing. And I can reach out to them, when that time of the year comes around, and make it a priority or almost like a yearly thing, that every time that season comes around, we reach out to each other and reconnect for a couple months. And it's just a really healthy balance, because for a couple months you get to hang out with each other, catch up, and then once that season's over, you can make it a priority to continue hanging out, or you can just wait till next year rolls around. And I've learned also that understanding balance is a big thing with relationships, and understanding that there's a lot of my friends that I don't want to be around every day or every weekend even. And I had to understand that I need to balance how often I'm hanging out with those people. That way, when I am hanging out with them, I appreciate it more. I appreciate them for who they are, but I'm not overdoing it. I'm not burning myself out on those relationships, which I think is something that happens a lot when you're hanging out with the same people over and over and over again. Being able to have diverse groups of people and diverse friends to hang out with make it easier to see different perspectives as well, and just enjoy each other's company more when you do get the opportunity. And I guess the last and final point, and this is pretty common sense, but you really have to make it a priority the older you get. We all get busier and busier, and we all have more responsibilities, and we're busier with work or families or significant others. And the older you get, the more you have to prioritize these relationships in order to maintain them. And that's just the reality of the world and growing up. But one thing I have noticed that is when I do make it a priority to reach out to someone I haven't talked to in a while and reconnect, typically 9 times out of 10, they're just as willing and just as excited to hang out as I was to reach out to them. That in reality, they were just waiting for someone to reach out and put the invitation on the table, and they'll gladly accept. It's like with anything, the amount of effort you put into something typically determines the outcome. If you're willing to invest your time and energy into maintaining healthy relationships, and it doesn't even have to be an absurd or unreasonable amount, but just making plans to grab lunch with someone once a month, once every couple weeks. Something like that. It's simple, low commitment, but it can really make a big difference on your mental state and the healthy status of relationships. Also, on a side note, I'd encourage you to find and surround yourself with people who are pushing and motivating you. That's been a big game changer for me. Just in this past really 2 years or so, connecting and having friendships with guys and having hobbies and shared interests in areas that are allowing us to grow and become better. So, whether that be business oriented or fitness and working out or whatever it may be, but, encouraging healthy relationships that are allowing you both to grow makes it a lot easier to look forward and prioritize these relationships because they're making you a better person. If there's relationships that the only thing you're doing is going out and getting drunk, that's cool, that's fun, but the older you get, you realize the more unhealthy and toxic that can really be, and the more stagnant it can almost make you in your life. So that's it. That is all I got. If you made it this long in the video, I appreciate it. I know it's been a longer one. I guess my question for you guys would be, if there's one piece of advice you have as far as maintaining relationships and healthy friendships as you grow older, what would that be? Let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, I appreciate you. And until next time, peace.